But we have another icon to talk to. The one, the only. Let's welcome to Totally Jim Radio. Michael Learned. Did I say that right? I probably said that wrong.
You were almost correct. It's Michael Learned. It's
Learned.
weird. It's a weird name. I've always been a little bit embarrassed by it. You can imagine all the teachers thinking that I'm lying, that I'm not giving them my correct name because I'm a girl with a boy's name. And then the last name, of course, they say, well, we hope you're going to live up to your last name, which I never did.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I was, like, practicing it, like, earlier in the show, and I was like, I'm going to get this wrong. I know I'm going to get this wrong.
Just a scooch. Do you know what that word means?
No.
You're young. Just a scooch. It's an old-fashioned word that just means just a tiny little bit.
Ah.
It's a good word.
Okay.
Kind of sounds like what it is. Scooch.
See that? You can come and teach us now. Give us lessons. We need lessons in life.
We'll learn
Keep me out
lady.
of it. I knew what scooch meant. Okay.
I was a terrible student.
I was thinking scooch in another way, like a pain.
Oh, never thought of that, but I guess it could be. I suppose it could be probably something a little on the blue side as well.
Yeah. So it was funny when I called her, Nick. I said, I'm sorry we're late. We were discussing True Blood, and she was like, "Oh, my husband loved that show, but I think he just loved it for the sex scenes."
I think so. I tried to get involved, but I just couldn't. I tried.
No, and you know that's funny because that's one of the questions I had for you. I mean, somebody has done so much TV over the years. Like, what do you watch on TV now?
I watch a lot of the cable shows, which I think are amazing. I really do. And I watch some network, sitcoms and stuff. But we have our favorite shows like everybody else, and we watch Netflix. There's a lot of variety now. There's this absolutely fantastic. We were watching the Emmys the other night, and I thought, oh my gosh, the competition now is incredible because everybody is so good. We watch Orange is the New Black, of course, and House of Cards, and we watch The Bridge. Do you watch that one?
You know what? I don't. Nick, do you watch it?
No, I watched the first season, but I wasn't all that into it.
Did they lose you? How come?
They did. It's the I don't know. There seems to be this sort of trend as far as like Asperger characters that sort of it gets on my nerves.
Okay, I get it. This is a terrible thing to say, but I usually watch what my husband watches. I guess I still have a little bit of the 50s wife in me,
Well, I mean, my wife kind of does the same thing. She tolerates some of the stuff I watch, but I've learned to tolerate some of the things she watches. But
what
I've
does your wife watch?
Too.
What
her
does she
big
watch?
show is a show that you were actually on, and that's SVU.
Oh yeah, that's a decent show. I like that show. Yeah.
Yeah, she's been watching it for years, and
yeah.
I didn't. At first, I didn't for probably the first 7-8 years of our marriage. But I after seeing it so much, I learned to enjoy it and love it.
She won you over. They work hard, those people. Oh my gosh, they work. Any hour show, the actors work their butts off. They really do. Usually a 12-hour day is a short day, and when you're shooting on location in the bitter wind and the cold in New York City, they work there. They earn their money. They really do.
Now, how about like you've also done soap operas too? One of my all-time favorite shows, General Hospital. Like, how about soap opera stars? I mean, a lot of people don't give them their just due, and they're doing hour shows every day.
I agree with you. Those people work hard too, and they're wonderful. They go home with pages of dialogue to memorize, and they come in and they're so professional, so kind to me. Because when you're a guest on a show, you don't really know your way around. You don't really. I don't watch daytime television usually, so I didn't know what the storylines were. Luckily, my my character was, not involved in the soap characters' lives.
Right.
But they were so kind to me, and it's a whole other operation. You go in, you do your bit, and you leave, and it's just almost like a factory the way they work, and it's all internal. They don't usually do any exterior shooting, so everything is indoors, and it just goes bang, 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 and you're home. And I did The Young and the Restless, and that was really scary because I was stepping into Jeannie Cooper's shoes briefly, literally.
Right.
I think I wore some of her clothes, and I didn't know who was what, or are you my son? Are you my stepson? Are we lovers? Who's doing what? And they were so kind. They just kind of practically put a leash around my neck and walked me around the studios. They were really great.
Wow. Now, how do you feel like? Soap operas were something that was so, 40, 50 years. It was 3-4 hours a day on the major networks. Now it's like, I think there's only 2 shows left on major networks.
Yeah, I think what's happened now is that they're nighttime soap operas with more money. I mean, really, if you think about it, most of the shows now are continuing shows. They're not hour shows that, where it's a complete story that ends, that has a wind-up. It's the shows continue on and into the next season and on and on.
Right.
It's sort of like nighttime soap opera with more money to spend,
Yeah.
And so that may be affecting daytime television. And they have locations in nighttime stuff, but I can't think of one show that's just a show in itself. Maybe SVU. Even though the people are the same people, they do a complete, each episode is complete within itself usually.
Right. Now, how about reality TV? Do you watch any reality shows?
No. I don't. But they're very popular. I have a few ideas for some, but they're very popular. And it's, I just wish... I guess it wouldn't be that entertaining, but I usually don't feel like they represent the best of us as a nation,
No. Oh, absolutely.
The reality shows, that's all. So.
But then if they did, show, good people and humane people and responsible people, nobody would probably watch it.
I'm sure that's the case, and there's no drama, I guess. But there are people who rescue animals, and they do have some of those on, I guess, the Animal Planet and so on. There are good people doing good things in the world, and it's pretty dramatic. The Ebola outbreak, the people who are going back after they've had Ebola themselves, and they're going back to continue doing their work. Things like that are, I think, just as dramatic as housewives of wherever, Don't want to name names or anything.
Oh, you can just pick a state.
Sorry. Do you think that
there's probably
maybe
one
it's
for every
just,
state?
Maybe, yeah. But maybe we like watching those shows just because it makes us feel a little better about ourselves or something. I don't know. Do you think that's part of it?
You know what? I've said that many times. I can watch them shows. The scary part is a lot of times, I'll watch them shows, and either I will see my family in those shows, or I'll think to myself, my family's not as screwed up, so I feel a little bit better.
Exactly. Somebody said the other day, if you want to see if you want to feel better about your own family, watch that Liev Schreiber show. I can't remember what it's called. I'm having a senior moment. But yes, which is a wonderful show. But, that gives new meaning to the word dysfunctional in terms of a family.
Well, you came from the iconic TV family that was far from dysfunctional, the Waltons.
That was a little idealized as a family. But Earl, our creator, had to, he was writing about real people who recognized themselves, and he had to be very careful not to offend people he loves. So
right.
we were constantly struggling with him to try to make us a little more human.
Did you think, like, all these years later, I mean, it's, 40 years later, that you guys would be still so remembered, and especially, I mean, how many times do people say to you, I'm sure, good night, John Boy, good night, Mary Al, they go through the whole cattle call of everybody, the family. I mean, it's just something that people never forget.
They do, and it always makes me, it warms my heart, and I feel really honored, because I've had people come up with tears in their eyes saying, I had a terrible childhood, and your show taught me how to be a parent, things like that. So to have been part of that is very moving. And I have people now writing to me and saying, I'm watching it with my kids or my grandkids, Of course,
right.
It was 40-some-odd years ago that we did that show. And anybody under 40 doesn't have a clue what the Waltons means, except there is apparently a new generation coming up. I doubt that it'll be quite as many as before, but it's kind of sweet. It really moves me. I get teary too when people are so heartfelt. It's lovely.
It's funny you said that too, because a lot of times, like, we'll do like little TV things with me and my daughters, and I'll sit there and I'll pull out the old, or I'll look on cable for on-demand stuff of a Walton show or the Brady Bunch, and I'll say that exact thing. Like, I just remember growing up with those shows and learning so much, and now I look at it where back then I was looking at it as a kid. Now that I'm a parent, I look at it as the parent point of view, and I feel like I can learn so much on how to be a parent from people like yourself and the Bradys and watching shows like that, and to me it just taught me a lot about life.
Thank you very much. And of course the credit goes to Earl Hamner, who really was the creator of the show, and it starts at the top, and he's a wonderful guy and a nice man who like all of us has this wicked sense of humor, and
right.
That makes him bearable. Otherwise, you couldn't stand him because he's so nice. But he does have a wicked sense of humor, and he likes to drink and makes no bones about it. And not in a bad way, but he just enjoys his drinks
right.
now and then. And it was a wonderful working experience. We worked hard. I mean, I had 5 kids of my own at home. Well, 3 of my own and 2 that were living with us. And so sometimes I was really torn because I'd be on a set for 14 hours pouring coffee, and I'd think, oh my gosh, am I really going to spend the rest of my life pouring coffee? But at the same token, I was broke when the show came along, so it saved my life. I had 3 kids to support, and it was a gift. I really think it was a gift from above. I was just led to it somehow, and it was we all had a good time together. We'd get so tired sometimes we'd be punchy, but somehow we'd end up laughing, or I'd get hysterical sometimes and start laughing through a scene, and I couldn't stop, and then I'd start crying because I was so tired. And the kids were always right there with big hugs and, right there for you in your close-up when you were having a hard time. And we're still very close.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I guess you kind of almost became like a second mom to the kids as well.
Yes, sort of more like a sister to the older kids, and definitely they spent more time with Ralph and me than they did with each other, than they did with their own parents. Yeah. Right.
Wow, that's awesome. So now you're promoting. You're going to be actually you're coming to my neck of the woods. You're coming to Wilmington, Delaware next month. From September 17th on through to October 5th. You're going to be at the Delaware Theater Company in Wilmington, Delaware, and you're going to be doing the play Love Letters.
That's right, and it's interesting, that voice of Stacy Keach, I did it with him. You
really?
Begin to sound like you've been screwing around when you say, well, I did it with this person, I did it with that person, I did it with this person and that person. But no, it was all very proper, and but it's such a lovely play that I've had the great good fortune to do it many, many times with many different wonderful people. Cliff Robertson, Ned Beatty, Fritz Weaver, who's a New York actor who was absolutely wonderful. And so it'll be fun to do it this time with Danny Davis, who played the butler on The Nanny. And
okay.
He's also a classical actor. And by the way, The Nanny's a very funny show. I never watched it when it was on. I think I was too snooty, but I've caught some reruns, and I just find myself just shrieking with laughter. I think it was very good, very clever.
That was a fun show.
Yeah, and he was wonderful in it. And so I'm looking forward to we're friends, and I'm looking forward to working with him. And the play is a jewel. It's funny, it's outrageous, it's sad, it's all kinds of things. So it's fun to do because the audience has a good time with it.
Now, it's funny, too, because actually I mentioned it to my wife earlier, and right away she said, love letters. She said, Elizabeth Taylor did that play.
She probably did. With Richard Burton?
Yeah.
Who did she do it with, do you know?
You know what? I'm not sure.
Okay, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but anyway, I'm sure she did because it goes from childhood to middle age or further, because I'm certainly beyond middle age. But anybody can do it. Young people can do it. You have to be at least middle aged, I guess. Maybe young people can't do it, but you could do it with your wife. I mean, because basically you read it. You need to be able to be familiar with it so that you can read it, comfortably without looking at the page the whole time. But
sure,
basically, you do read it as if you were reading love letters.
Wow.
And it's funny. And he sat down, apparently Pete Gurney, who wrote it, sat down and just wrote it for himself and for his wife.
Huh.
And I guess they were going on a cruise and they wanted to do it, and he's himself is amazed at the success of it. They're going to be doing it on Broadway this fall,
nice.
I believe. Yeah.
Nice.
So I think Carol Burnett, a whole bunch of people. Not me. Didn't ask me, but that's okay.
What's up with that?
I don't know.
Especially you've done it so many times.
I know. Maybe that's why. Who knows?
Now,
Maybe they just don't like me.
Is it difficult? Like you said, you've done it with different actors, and now this is going to be your first time doing this with Danny Davis?
Yeah, it takes a couple of. Ralph and I did it in Canada 2 summers ago, and he had been very sick, and it took him a little while to get the rhythms of the piece. But
okay.
Once he did, he got more laughs. And he had people sobbing at the end of it. I mean, he was just, once he grabbed onto it, he was just fantastic. I have done it with Stacy Keach and a whole bunch of fabulous actors. And I think Ralph did the best job of anyone I've ever worked with. I toured it also with Gavin MacLeod, who was also wonderful. We had a great time. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But unfortunately, there are a few swear words in it, so if you're going to some little town in Iowa with a bunch of Baptist people, they tend to get a little upset by that.
Offense.
But in Canada, some of the raunchiest lines were the ones that got the biggest laughs, huge laughs, because there are a few little raunchy lines in there, especially by my character.
It's funny. I never would have pictured myself talking with the mom from the Waltons, and she'd be talking about saying curse words and swear words, and it seems like you have no problem with that.
Oh, I have a terrible mouth. My husband said, you talk like a stevedore. I shock him. But I can't help it. My parents, I don't know, my mother could say the F word and make it sound like pass the tea, please. So I grew up with it, and I try very hard to restrain myself now because I know it's offensive to people, and I don't like to offend people, but every now and then the F-bomb slips out of my mouth, and people fall back and in a dead faint. Olivia Walton just said the F-bomb. So I have to be careful. But the play is the play, and you have to say the words that are written. I got a letter once from a guy. Do you want me to go on or shut up?
Go ahead.
It's a bit of a story. I don't know what your time frame is, but a letter from some man, I think in Iowa, and he was very, very offended by me because my character is quite steamy at times, and it was really an unpleasant letter, and it upset me somehow because this guy said he had brought his church group, and he was offended, and he thought I had made up the words. No playwright would ever put words like that in a play, and blah blah blah. So my husband called him and said, an actor has to say the words as they're written on the page, and it's not that. I'm making it sound like it's horrible, but it's not. I mean, there are just a few words that people don't expect to hear Olivia Walton saying. And anyway, the guy was very sweet and wrote a very nice apologetic letter, and at the bottom wrote, P.S. I really, really loved Little House on the Prairie.
Oh.
So I laughed. I mean, I should have framed it, I guess, because he tried so hard. And anyway,
that's funny.
That happens all the time with her, with Karen Grassley, and with me. The two of us, they think she's me, and they think I'm her, and it happens all the time.
Now, are you doing the play now, or you're just once you come to Delaware, you'll be doing it again?
No, I'm actually packing boxes to ship to Delaware.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And no, I'm not doing anything right now. I've been writing my memoir, as most out-of-work actors do. And it's going to be a busy September, but it's been kind of a lull, and I've loved it. I've been home with my husband and just leading a regular life, and it's been nice.
You've been home as he's been watching True Blood.
Right. I stomp out of the room. How can you watch that? And then I come back and I get caught up in it too. So I'm not above it.
Oh, that's funny. All right, so September 17th, it kicks off. Delaware Theater Company in Wilmington, Delaware. Love Letters. And you will be in the starring role with Mr. Danny Davis. That's
correct, and I'm looking forward to it. I can't imagine anything more beautiful than Delaware in the fall. It's going to be gorgeous.
I'll tell you what, I was looking over the dates and all that. I think I'm going to take my wife there, because we only live like 20 minutes from there.
Oh, please do, and come back and say hello.
I will.
Know you'll like it. It's people, women sometimes have to drag their husbands, but once they get them there, the guys are the ones that really respond to it, because almost everybody's had a love, a friend, somebody really close where there's always that little bit of if only. I wonder if could we have made it? That kind of thing.
I'm not going to break out in tears, am I? Am I going to start sobbing?
You might.
I bring puffs.
You might. You might at the end. You might. But
I probably will. I cry it so much.
I love you for that. I can't wait to meet you.
At the end of every movie, I start crying. It's funny because even at I went to see 2 months ago, Jersey Boys. I'm crying in Jersey Boys. I walk out of theaters, I'm like sobbing. I cried at the Planet of the Apes. I cry in every movie. There's something that gets me in every movie.
I think that's wonderful that you do. I have a son who does. He sobs out loud. And I was sitting watching the movie about Ray Charles, and I was all alone in the theater, and I'm sobbing away, sobbing. I sobbed from the very beginning until the very end. And then this man walks in, and I'm thinking, why did he have to come in here? Now I have to be quiet and circumspect and blah, blah, blah. And about 2 minutes later, he was sobbing too. And so I just felt that I was not alone. I never saw him or anything. He sat in the back, but he was just sobbing out. Maybe it was you.
It could have been me. It could have been me. Well, I want to thank you for tonight. It's been great talking with you. If I can get you to cut an ID for me too, like Stacy Keach did, you're listening to Totally Driven Radio. That would be great.
Okay, you're listening to Totally
Driven Radio.
Driven. Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. This is Michael Learned. You're living. I'm sorry, I haven't eaten. This is Michael Learned. This is Michael Learned. You're listening to Totally Driven Radio.
Thank you so much, and I'll see you next month. I'm going to come visit.
Okay, promise.
I promise,
your
and
word.
I'm bringing puffs.
And okay, and come backstage. Okay.
I will.
Okay, I'll meet you there.
Thanks so much.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye. All right. Look at that. It's not every day you talk to a TV icon.
Look at you making connections and meeting friends everywhere.